Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Smishak's Custom Baits. Rick Smishak here. Um, Today, we're going to be starting the series, the mini series, I guess, on Chapter 3 of Knowing Bass. It's going to be four different segments. The chapter is 46 pages long, I think. I think that's what it was. But anyways, each segment is roughly 10 pages worth. It's just worked out that way. But Chapter 3 is about chemoception. I think I'm saying that correctly. The senses of taste and smell. Today we'll talk about how the taste and smell with the organs, how they taste, what they are, where they're located, that sort of thing. As humans, we tend to not take a fish's sense of taste and smell seriously. But like most animals, fish in general have better senses of taste and smell than we do. Okay, that should tell you something right there. Bass are not the best at it. Catfish are pretty high on that list. They can smell and taste stuff outside their bodies. They have smell and taste receptors on their whiskers, which bass don't have that. But I'll be referring to my notes again quite a bit. I want to make sure I get the stuff right, the stuff that I wrote down. So I don't want to give you guys bogus information, right? In later episodes for this channel, or for this chapter, we'll talk about various scents, attractants that you can use, when to use them, why you could use them, which ones not to use. I mean, you might be surprised on which ones that we shouldn't use. But let's go ahead and get started for this today. First of all, bass have four nostrils, two on each side. A lower one that's closer to their mouth, and then one closer to their eyes. They're between the eyes and the mouth on that front ridge. When I was younger, I used to think that one pair of those holes was their ears. No, that's not it. They're both nostrils. Both pairs of holes are nostrils. The lower nostril, I'll just call them lower and upper. The lower one is where they take in water for scents to be sampled, and the upper one is where water expels. Their nose is not connected to their mouth in any way, like ours is. Even the clearest water is not clean. Okay, it has stuff from odors, things that are released from every living, dead, and dying thing in the water, whether it's plants or animals. Scents related to food are always present to one degree or another. Okay, so bass have to filter out stuff that isn't relevant. Food scents have to hit a minimum threshold before the bass can, not only before they smell them, but also before they act upon them. The more minerals and body compounds and whatnot that are in the water, that's background, we think of that as background noise. The more of that background noise there is in the water, the harder it is for a bass to smell their food. Okay, hope that makes sense. It's kind of like if you're using a microphone to record something, but the microphone isn't, or it doesn't have noise canceling on it. So like this fan behind me. You can watch some of my bait making videos and where I'm using the microphone and ones where I'm not. Well, this microphone filters that out. While a bass can filter out things too that are irrelevant. Of course, there's a lot of things that a bass can't even smell. Anything that's oil based, high fat content, bass can't smell it. It's like it doesn't even exist to them. And in a later video in this chapter 3 series, we'll get into that, why that is. But because of all the stuff that's in the water, we can think of bass as living in a soup, all right? And the soup varies from body of water to body of water because of the different things that are in it, how much of these things are in it. We've all seen water that looks just dirty. You can't see half an inch into the water. And we've all seen water that you can see 15, 20 feet down. You know, but even the water is clear enough. You see 15, 20 feet to the floor, to the lake bed, whatever. Still has stuff in it, lots of stuff in it that we just can't see it. When how do I want to say this? When bass, when they detect food, it's only because there's a sharp rise in those scents. Okay, in the food scent, like say from a bluegill, it tells that bass that bluegill's nearby, and now it's time to start looking for it. Let's get back to the organs of taste and smell. Beneath the nostrils is the olfactory chamber, and while the book doesn't specifically say that each pair of nostrils has its own olfactory chamber, it's because a bass can't turn its head like this back and forth and use its nose to find food, unless the food is really close, like within a foot or so. The nostrils are just too close together to get directional input, the usable directional input to help find the food. Bass can't track the food with their nose. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that each pair of nostrils has its own olfactory chamber. Okay, because if they didn't, they wouldn't ever be able to use their nose to find the direction of the food. Even at close range, they wouldn't be able to, because both sets of nostrils would bring the water to be sampled into the same chamber. Okay. Now at the bottom of each chamber is a series of skin folds. And in between each of those folds at the bottom are thousands of smell receptors. Those folds increase, the number of those folds increase as a bass ages, but so far science and research hasn't been able to tell us whether or not a bass's sense of smell gets better as those folds, those skin folds increase, and also with those extra smell receptors. You would think that would make sense that it does, but you know, things that happen don't always make sense, right? So if in this case, if it didn't get better, that wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. At least not to me, it wouldn't. But that's research hasn't been able to tell us that one way or the other. So there's also a mucus layer. That's where the molecules that the bass are smelling touch. They hit that mucus layer, and then the receptors underneath that mucus layer can sample them. And that's kind of gross, isn't it? Can sample them and tell the bass what is being sampled, what is being smelled. And it's interesting to note that out of all of a bass's senses, the only one that has a direct pipeline to the brain is the sense of smell. Everything else, eyesight, taste, the vibrations that they can sense from their lateral line, their hearing. Everything else gets processed at least once and sometimes several times before that information gets to the brain. Even then, when it gets to the brain, it can get processed and filtered again. Um, when moving, bass are constantly smelling the water. They're constantly sampling it. And that happens because I think I mentioned that the lower nostrils have little ridges above them. Those little ridges force the water in, and then it flows through the olfactory chamber and out the back, out the upper nostril. But they can also smell, sample the water while they're sitting still, where they're not moving around. And they do that by flaring their gills. When they flare their gills, their skull moves in such a way that it pulls pulls water in through the lower nostrils and then subsequently out the upper ones. So they can smell while they're moving. They can smell while they're just sitting there. And this is something you don't really, or at least I haven't, as a fisherman, I have never really pondered this. I'm like, oh wow, okay, so they can do that, right? I've heard that fish don't like human scent. Well, we'll get into in another video in this for this chapter. We'll get into how to or one possible way to negate that. Um, yeah. So this is a. I don't want to say too much for the other videos. That's why I hesitating there. Um, with all this said, this is a short video. It shouldn't be too long for you guys. And I'll get busy on the next 3 for this chapter. It took me a couple of days to go through read the chapter and first read it again, and then go through and go back to the beginning of it and start processing exactly what I wanted to talk about, what I didn't want to talk about. There's a little bit of stuff in the chapter that I'm just leaving because a lot of it's analogies, a lot of it's the stuff I'm leaving out is also is super technical stuff that we probably don't need to know as fishermen. So I don't want to bore you guys with that stuff. So, but if you guys liked what you saw today, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and share this with your family, your friends, your frenemies, your relatives you don't like, whoever. That's one of the best ways that you guys can help the channel grow, is by letting other people know about it. Pardon me. Up to 696 subscribers as of this morning. Pushing 1,200 hours watched now. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for every minute watched, every second watched. We're getting there. We're making progress. So, and that's what's important right now. Just keep making progress. Remain persistent. Keep going. Keep your eye on the ball, right? And until next time, folks, tight lines, calm waters, and God bless.